things happened, and I want to believe that before they have stayed for 14 years, like what I told her, what has kept you for that 14 years?
Mm.
I don't want to believe that the partner has always been like that.
Mm. Yeah.
I don't want to believe that that has always been his person.
Mm.
Because if he has always been his person, then there's no way she would have been there for the past 14
Yeah,
years.
yeah. And they
So
wouldn't have gotten together in the first place if it was
thank
like that.
you. So
Yeah.
this bring us back to what are the signs that intimacy is missing? Hello, my beautiful people. Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Relationship with Tigho. I am your coach for today. And today we are unpacking a truth that often goes unnoticed until it is too late. And that is presence matters more than perfection. Listen, I want you to sit with that for a moment. No effort, not achievement, not doing everything right, just presence. I would love you to understand it that our topic for today was actually inspired by a story of one of my friends. I met her recently and she had been separated from her husband for over 2 years or so. And I got inquisitive about it. I wanted to know what happened because they've been married for over 14 years. And you know the thoughts that comes to mind when you hear things like that, right? Maybe infidelity, maybe it was abusive, maybe it wasn't providing enough. But I want you to note this, that all of this were it the problem. Because when I asked her what actually happened, and she started telling me stuff, I was shocked. You know, her response still lingers in my ear. And the response was as simple as all I needed was his presence, but he never gave it to me. He never saw any reasons why his presence matters in my life. So today, we will be having this conversation with a beautiful friend and a sister, someone that I respect deeply, that has a deeper insight on emotional awareness and human connection. How are you, Shalini?
Good, Tigho. It's a pleasure to be here. Um, yeah, it's a rainy, cold day outside, so it's good to be indoors. So yeah.
Can you just introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Shalini, and I am an interior designer. I have been one for the past 10 years. I live obviously in Australia with my family, with my husband and my two girls. I obviously met you last year when you moved, so at church, and ever since we met, we've like hit it off. Like we're all always on the same wavelength. We somehow understand each other, like like almost perfectly. So yeah, it's wonderful to have a friend like you. It truly is. Yeah.
It will interest you to know that Shalini is my beautiful friend. And when I say a friend, she is a friend. Okay, let's dive into this. Like I said earlier, what we are here for today is perfection over presence. So let me ask, why do you think presence is often overlooked in relationships, especially by those who think they are already doing enough?
I think it's to do more so with people having this idea in their heads about the role they play in a relationship. And it could be stereotypical, like in the sense that if you're the husband or the father, you are the provider, so your job is only to provide. And if you're the mother, obviously you do what you need to do around the house. And yes, you might work as well, but then you have your, stereotyped sort of job at home where you do the cooking and the cleaning and taking care of the kids and so on and so forth. So I think it's what we do is sort of like you sort of look at your role as a husband or a father or a mother, like in a very what's the word for it? Like a streamlined sort of way. You don't go above and beyond that particular role as such, and what we fail to realize is that, including myself, like, that we need to, where in our partnership with our spouse, we need to spend more time assessing the other person, and trying to see what they need in the relationship, as opposed to our what is expected of us, like, the traditional sort of expectation of your role in a relationship. Okay, so it needs to be directed at what they need from the relationship as opposed to what you think you need to put into the relationship. If you get
Okay. Thank you for your insight and your deep knowledge. So if I heard you very well, what you're saying here is there are challenges surrounding emotional intimacy because of everyday activities,
Yeah,
things
yeah,
we do.
yeah,
You know, the father or the husband is taught, is surrendered by how to provide for the family and how to make things right, to make the family comfortable, while the wives, the mothers, they are so engrossed in their work, their duties as a wife, but do you think it's possible in the midst of all these activities going on in our lives? Is it possible for us to strike a balance with what we need as
yeah.
a person?
I think it's more like a um, deliberate, with God's help, a deliberate action on our parts to um, to understand, to spend that extra time with our spouses, and like, we have to do it deliberately, because in this day and age, with everything going on like around us, we hardly have time to like cope up with our everyday affairs, so it needs to be more of a deliberate see, like, initially when you get married and you obviously you're still, in that in love phase, and then you have children, and then you're busy with children, and so on and so forth. And then you reach a phase where the children are older, um, and then you sort of get sidelined to your what you do on a day-to-day basis. We forget, we almost like forget that initial intimacy that we had, with our spouses, just because of the way life takes you, like we sort of um, overlook, or I think it's more or less forget. So I think it's more of a, we need to understand, that applies to me as well, that we it is important to take that time out with your spouse and spend that extra time with them, and understand them in a way where, like, for instance, understand their love language. So like for me, my husband helping me with things that I have to do around the house. That's my, like, service. Like, that's my love language. Like, when he does things for me, I know that he loves me, and like for him, it could be like a hug or a like like me like holding him close or something like that, that is his love language. So we need to first of all understand what their love language is and put in that deliberate effort. So initially it might feel like, my goodness, it seems a bit awkward, like after a while, like when that sort of there's that distance and you're so used to everyday life. But I think we need to make that effort to experience like what we used to earlier on at the beginning of the relationship. It's almost like you forget it, and then it's like you have to deliberately um, reintroduce it into your life as such.
All right. Thank you so much. So, takeaway point there that we have to be intentional with our
Intentional.
spouse
That's it. Yeah.
in always remembering where we started from,
Mm,
what makes us lovers from
mm,
the beginning.
mm.
Okay, and you were able to point out some practical steps here, like for you, helping you out with chores, with cooking,
Yeah.
shows that you truly care about me. It brings this bond
Yeah.
between you and your husband. Um, like what you said is very important. Our love languages are different. And
Yeah.
in for every relationship to actually blossom and to keep going with the strength and tenacity that it needs to succeed, we have to be intentional about it. We have to understand what do we really want first.
Yeah.
And our spouses have to still learn to know and to understand what really makes us who we are, what
Mm,
makes us happy, what makes us feel loved, you know. Is it possible that upbringing can be a trigger why some people doesn't understand this language called emotional intimacy?
mm.
Is it possible maybe because of the way they were brought up? They don't
Correct.
see it to be a big deal, or possibly they don't know, they truly love, but they don't know how to truly express this love to
Yeah.
their partners.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Obviously, the upbringing, like our upbringing, has a very big role to play in how we see our partner or interact with our spouse. Because like obviously your life is um like is full of experiences from what you have seen of your parents growing up, or the lack of it, and it definitely has a role to play. But then, as an adult, I think you need to come to obviously, if you don't want to make, maybe you had like the most wonderful parents who you could see were in love with each other, so you have a very good example to follow. But it could be the other way as well. But then as an adult, like, you sort of, when you make the decision to get into, like, to get married and have a relationship with your spouse, it's you obviously have taken a step. So you have to um, I think have that responsibility. It's not even a responsibility. It's almost like a yearning within you to make your relationship work, as opposed to, um, just blaming the past and your experiences.
Some
Uh,
kind of belief, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
upbringing, yeah.
Yeah, upbringing. Yes, I do understand that like would have affected you, but then you can, by God's grace, make that effort to not like to learn from it as opposed to repeat it. Like everything that goes, that's what I tell my kids, like experiences that you go through which aren't like ideal, like which hurt you or which you beat yourself about, you have to think of it as an experience to push you in the right direction, not you don't take the back seat and say, oh, well, I'm a victim and I'm going to just stay here and cry about it. You've got to push forward with that, the hurt and the pain that you feel inside from that experience, that needs to like instigate you to move forward in a positive kind of way.
Thank you so much. You got to define your life and you have to be intentional about it. You know, there's a topic I'm working on. Are you still living the life of your parents? You can, like, I heard it so clearly. You can blame any such thing on your past because it comes to a point in your life you have to define you.
Yeah.
And the good thing about life is our fathers always want us to live a better life more than them.
Yeah.
And that brings us to a place of improvement and development. And everything starts with us. So there is no room for blame. I love that. I just love that clarity that you gave there. You know, for some person, could it be his upbringing? Could it be something he's not used to? And he said, it's always adamant when it comes to that. And over time, it looks as if we are just roommates. There's nothing just going on between us. It was so flat that I don't feel his presence. It doesn't feel, I know it doesn't feel my presence anymore. Yeah. And what is the need for such a relationship? So we have to go our different ways. So these are some of the challenges I feel that can actually be, handled if truly we realize the place of self-development and self-growth in our lives.
I do have one more thing to say, sorry, which I wanted to, which I forgot to mention, but obviously the most important thing is communication. And that's precisely what has happened in this situation, the lack of communication. So see, it's obviously if there is something that is bothering you, you've got to communicate that with your partner. Okay, so you cannot expect him to understand what is going on in your mind and your life without you expressing it, because he's not like a mind reader, so I feel like communication is the most crucial aspect in a relationship, and that really will set the tone. So even if you are okay, if you're feeling bad, say like my love language is like service. So if I feel my husband, okay, I need help, okay, and then if he is busy doing something else, I will let him know right then and there. You sort it out right then and there. When you hold it within your heart, it just builds up and builds up and builds up over time. And that's when you get to that stage where it's like you don't even know each other anymore, because of that gap in communication. And why do we have words? Why do we speak? It's to relate to the other person, that's how God's made us. We have to relate to that other person, and how we do that is through communication.
Exactly and absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you are so correct. Like from the story that inspired this conversation, she actually communicated, right? She actually spoke her mind. She actually pushed. She actually tried to see how the whole thing can work. Like what she said, because I had to, she actually wanted the marriage to work. But the more she tried, the more the partner, the husband, was just giving in to a voice. Why do men confuse emotional closeness with needness?
Okay.
Why did they confuse it?
It's a very hard question to answer, like for me, being a woman. So, I would say I mean, the only way I can see it, like I was gonna say, is just the way it's put. And if it has any sort of, um, like that where you go from expressing it as a genuine emotional need from you, where you are serious about it. And I think it's also, if one thing is said too many times, you know, it sort of loses its value. But if you say it with a lot of, um, I can't tell you the word for it, but he understands that you are very, very serious and very, it really means a lot to you. I think that can make a difference. I think us as women, we have that tendency to to like repeat ourselves over and over again, And I think we just have to take it back. And it's about that self, like respect. So as a woman, like as a wife, I have, like as you have been, talking about, like, like as a person, like you have your self-respect. God has given you your unique identity, right? And when you know who you are, right, and you're speaking to your spouse, you have to ask God to give you the strength within yourself, and when you express your opinion, you don't have, like, it doesn't need to come out that many times where it sounds needy. It can be said just the one time, but it can be said in a way which is very effective. I think we have to hold back on our words sometimes. It might be a general, like, like men sort of, like with the buddies, like before you get married and all, how guys have the tendency to talk about, like girls they're dating and all with other men, and kind of thing. But then when you are in a relationship, it's a totally different matter, like where once you're married, it's a totally different relationship. I mean, obviously, you're not discussing your private issues like with your friend as such. So and it's that, like you have your self-respect, and he has that respect for you. He needs to have that respect for you as well, like, so it works both ways. But as like what your topics that you have handled, it's about that self-respect. It doesn't, like, it comes from God, and that's what I try to teach my girls, like God has created each one of us in a very unique way. There is no, I know it sounds cliche and all, there's no one like you. Okay. And I tell my girls that, see, you have something that no one else on this planet has. And you need to make the most out of what you have. And you need to be confident because you are you and no one else is you, so if you, and that's where that self-respect comes from, like, because you know that God's made you special. You are special. And you say it with that sort of authority to your partner, and your partner will see that in you. He's not going to undermine your earnestness. Sometimes your earnestness is taken for like
Granted.
nagging, kind
Yep,
of thing.
yep. Okay.
Yeah. So I think,
Wow. Realizing that first, I think everything here has to start with self. Before you seek intimacy from someone, you must first have intimacy with yourself. And that is
yeah,
just a brief of what you just talked about. Because
yeah.
if you know what self-respect is, you will know how to communicate it, you will know how to get it to.
Mm,
Because the truth is, people treat you how you treat yourself.
yeah.
That is the truth. But that does not take the fact away that fine. Sometimes we give ourselves this self-respect, and still we find ourselves in a kind of relationships that we can't really explain. Things happened, and I want to believe that before they have stayed for 14 years, like what I told her, what has kept you for that 14 years?
Mm.
I don't want to believe that the partner has always been like that.
Mm. Yeah.
I don't want to believe that that has always been his person.
Mm.
Because if he has always been his person, then there's no way she would have been there for the past 14
Yeah,
years.
yeah. And they
So
wouldn't have gotten together in the first place if it was.
thank you.
Yeah.
So this bring us back to what are the signs that intimacy is missing, even when everything else seems okay in our marriages, in our relationships. I've seen many couples, not one, not two, not three. They come out and you just feel everything is well with them. They are happy. But back home, it's not the same story. We just wear this mask of everything is fine. But when we get back home, we unmask and we wear another mask of this is what it is, the
Mm.
reality, and they keep dealing with it. And in the same sense, I've seen many that are in marriages that from the outside, everything seems to be very okay, flamboyant life, living well. But one of those partners is starving emotionally.
Mm.
And that is why you see scenarios where a woman might be married to a very rich man,
Mm.
but is having an affair
Mm.
with just somebody that that you can't even imagine.
Mm.
But the husband is up here. There's no emotional intimacy. There is nothing really going on between those couples. And I want to believe that before a marriage comes to an end, if the marriage ends today, it has ended between those two people like 3 years or 2 years ago. The family or maybe the surrounding just get to know about it the day they decided to announce it that they are no more.
Mm.
But within themselves, things has been going on. So what do you think are some of the signs of emotional intimacy missing in a relationship or marriage when it seems to outsiders that everything looks fine between these two people?
Emotional intimacy, I think it comes down to communication again. When you are not in touch, like emotionally in touch with the other person, like you are not speaking honestly to and fro to the other person, and you there's feel like you cannot communicate what you are thinking again, it's coming down to communication again. So that emotional intimacy has to do with communication. So if you feel like there's a lack of it, that's like the first sign of, there's something like between the two concerned, kind of thing. So I think it depends on how invested each party is in the relationship. So one person may have given up on the relationship long before the other person, and the other person just keeps trying and trying and trying, but they don't get the response. So I think it's already too late in the relationship, if that has happened, if one person has lost that. So I think in we have to be very, very careful in our relationships to give each other our time, like so that we need to consider our relationships on a regular basis, not just what we are doing in our lives and what we're doing next day and taking the kids here. And almost on a regular basis, we have to assess our relationships before it reaches that point of no return. Like it's whether you're newly married or you're like you've been with the person for the past 15 years. Like it's almost like it's a journey together, and we have to, because it's two individuals who have become one flesh, like who are meant to be one flesh, we still have our own emotions. Yes, we are one, but we still have our own emotions. So we have to um, we have to assess our relationships on a regular basis and understand because we change as well over time, like we're not
Yeah.
the same people that we were. Like my husband will probably think I'm very, very different to what I was 20 years ago, and same
Yeah.
for him, so that assessment and that earnestness in our relationship and the wanting to make things work is something that we have to obviously do intentionally, and we have to assess our relationship as we go along the journey with that person. Like the answer to your question is signs is when that communication stops, somewhere along the line. It could be just one partner dropping off initially, or it could be both together dropping off. But that where you feel, obviously you're going to feel that within you. When things aren't right. So I think, yeah, you'll know it when it happens. So you're better off, like, keeping that going and assessing it and rectifying it right then and there, rather than holding on to it and waiting for a date to address the issue. Like that's just going to double your problem. So I think just on a regular basis, um, yeah, like assess your issues and take it up to God, ask Him to help you with it, and try and, resolve the issues as and when it happens.
Thank you for that deep insight. You have to be intentional about it. You have to communicate. You have to understand that the both parties are now one person. Because the Bible says, for the man shall live and he will cleave to the wife, and the two shall become one. So and that brings us to the point too, that you have to be a good listener. You know,
That's
listen
it.
to your wife, listen to your husband. Little moments is what makes and builds emotional intimacy. The hand holding, the helping in the kitchen, the doing things together. It must be in the kitchen. Forget that we are repeating kitchen, because that's what women knows most. So yeah, so the doing things together, the silent prayers we make together, those are what builds presence. And this not only between couples, but also between our children, because we might think, oh, giving them the burst of education, the burst of traits and all that is all that matters. But what truly matters is the everyday involvement in their lives, having to be part of their journey. Do you feel your child when she's hurt? Do you know when she's hurt? Do you know when she needs something? Do you know when something bothers her or him? Do you know when your child truly needs you by his or her side? Not the money, not the gifts, not no,
Yeah, not the holidays.
just your presence. That
Exactly,
is
exactly.
what builds emotional intimacy. Okay, and if we must take something home today, we should understand that emotional intimacy is built in small moments,
Mm.
not in the big moments, not
Yeah,
in the expensive or luxury trips. No, you can still go on a luxury trip with that partner, but your heart is not close
yeah, yeah,
to that
yeah,
partner.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so for us to truly build emotional intimacy in our marriages, we have to be first very intentional about it.
Mm.
We have to be, like what Shalini said, we have to make it a daily act,
Mm.
not just a one-off thing, a daily act. Find the time for ourselves and by ourselves, because nobody will truly do it for
Mm.
us,
Mm.
right? These are some practical takeaways from today's episode. One, be available emotionally. You must ask your partner or your loved one, how are they doing? In minutes. Don't just ask because it's just a routine, but ask and let your presence be felt, that you are willing to listen and to understand what they are going through or what they have to say. They create daily connection rituals. So it can just be that 10 minutes of screen-free time together. No touching of the screen, no looking of the screen. You can just be that holding of hands, sitting close to each other, without speaking, but your body, there is a language between the both of you that shows that your presence matters. I can feel your presence. You are here with me. I know, even without speaking, you know that you are here with me. That is the heart to heart connection that we are talking about. So this is even if for the young, for the old, you are 1 year in marriage, you are 10 years, you are 100 years in marriage, keep building on that. That is what truly keeps the heart going. Then respond to emotional cues. When your partner complains or when he asks for something, please respond to them. Learn each other's emotional language. Shalini said this, talked so much about this, and I think just listen to what she said. She really spoke a lot about it. And don't wait for crisis to connect. She spoke about it, right? Yeah. We own it to ourselves to make sure our marriages work. So first, I would say is a decision thing. What was your decision from the very first day you walked beside this man? Before from the you walked beside this woman, what was the decision? Was it when it gets easy, I'm in, or when it doesn't get easy, I'm out? Is a decision thing. And when is a decision thing, and you've agreed within you and by yourselves that there's no turning back, that we are in together, then please don't wait for crisis to connect. Emotional presence is a daily choice, like what Shalini said. She said this often. I'm just using this as a recap of what we discussed in this episode and which we help you to grow in your marriage, between your partner, even in your family, between your children. Okay, this will really help you. All right, so before we begin to close today's conversation, I want to speak this directly to that woman, that man who is listening to this episode right now. Okay, someone who is be feeling unseen, someone who is be showing up in a relationship that feels more like routine than, refuge. Relationship is supposed to be a safe place. It shouldn't be just a routine, okay? Someone that is thinking or who is thinking, is it too late for us? Or maybe is love just is it for me? I mean to say, okay, if you are in that place in your life, I want you to understand that you are not alone, okay? We are here for you and we are here with you. And I want to ask Shalini, what would you say to such a person?
I think the first thing you would do if you are in that sort of position is first give it to God. Give it to God and ask Him to give you direction on how to handle it, because there is nothing on this earth that can give you more wisdom than what God provides you, to handle the situation. So
Yeah.
obviously, each person's situation is different. We don't know like the backstory to what you are going through, but you can rely on God to help you through that, to say the right thing, to do the right thing,
Mm.
so that your relationship is healed. So yeah, so I think it's just I think that's the best way to handle it. Well, that applies to any matter like as a matter of fact. So yeah, I think that would be what it is because everyone's issues are different.
everyone's issues are different. Absolutely. Like what Shalini said, just reconnect with yourself. What we would love you to know today is a life with Christ is a crisis-free life, in the sense that the crisis will be there, but God has the answer to it all.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're going through these stages in your life and you feel that, oh my God, I think I'm just wasting my time, I want you to understand that God has the answer, like what my co-presenter have said today. God has the answer to that challenge in your life. So what you can do, just reconnect with yourself. I would say you should write, you should reflect, you should ask, stay silent longer, go deep. What do I truly need emotionally? And I don't want you to be too over exaggerated about it. Be very simple about it. What do I truly need emotionally? Because until you really know what you need, you can't really communicate it effectively. When it feels safe, share it. We can't overemphasize on that. Communication is power. So your spouse is not, if you don't communicate with your spouse, there's no way your spouse will know what you're going through. There's no way anybody will know what you are going through. So even as much that we want our spouse to sometimes understand our feelings, there is power in communication. So no matter how messy you think it is or how scary you think it is, it's better you share it with your loved ones, your spouse, and I tell you that love will respond in return. Okay, and if the relationship can't hold that honesty, maybe it wasn't holding you after all. Okay, so but if it's a true relationship, share it and you will see the response to that. All right, so what would be your closing word for someone today that is out there wondering, how can I dive into this thing called emotional intimacy?
Whichever stage you're at in your relationship, e emotions are something that comes like naturally to us, but there needs to be an amount of intentionality in it as well to to create the emotional intimacy we would need, like in to keep the relationship successful. Okay, so what I mean by that is we don't we don't just rely on our like our emotions as and when it rises, you know. We have to sometimes be intentional with the way we act or we are with our spouses on an everyday basis, um, to make it a success. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you so much. So if you'd be with us to the end of this podcast, I want you to reflect on your own relationship, romantic, familiar, or even your friendships. And I want you to ask yourself, are you physically present but emotionally absent? Are you waiting to get everything right before you show up? Because here is the truth. You don't need a perfect version of you. What you need is the real you. Open, available, and emotionally alive. So thank you so much for joining us today. If this speaks to your heart, please share this episode with someone who needs it. And don't forget to follow us on all our social media handles at Let's Talk Relationship with Tigho for more reflections and building genuine relationships. And as always, keep nurturing that relationship that truly matters with yourself. And don't forget, it all starts with